Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Real Reds Talk, an authentic football fan channel made in Manchester. 6 months ago, we beat the best team in the world in FA Cup final, winning a trophy under Erik ten Hag. We've just sacked, well, not just sacked, we've sacked the manager who won that trophy. We've just sacked our sporting director, who was actually on gardening leave for longer than he was at the club. That's how long we spent trying to get him. We've spent another £200 million in the summer, and we are still 13th in the table. Probably similar somewhere in Europe as well. Charging Premier League winning prices for mid-table matches. This is where we're at as a club, Manchester United at the moment. So Ineos, I've got a lot to do. There was going to be this revelation that was going to change Man United for the good and take us back to the top of European football and challenging near the top of the Premier League. And it's certainly not been that at all. So, look, it's been a struggle so far at the minute, and we're going to dive into that. That's one of the main topics today. I'll put them on the screen for you guys, a few people on YouTube. This is what we're going to be discussing. We've got updates on the Dan Ashworth situation. Obviously, still nothing come out from his camp at the moment, but we are going to talk about that. Diallo's done an interview with Sky, which we're definitely going to touch on. Pogba has resurfaced. Louis Saha talking about him potentially training with Manchester United in and Marco Silva, Thomas Frank, and Graham Potter as a potential interim. They're the ones that he wanted, right? Apparently, Ratcliffe wanted more decisiveness and a dynamic appointment, someone with a certain charisma who was capable of shouldering the enormous responsibility and scrutiny that comes with the leading, one of the leading clubs on the planet. He was also said to have raised eyebrows at Ashworth taking a holiday on Amorim's second day at Carrington. Now, the 4 coaches that I've just mentioned, I think all of them are talented. I think Graham Potter did a fantastic job at Brighton. I think Thomas Frank is doing an amazing job and is extremely underrated, Thomas Frank at Brentford. I think Eddie Howe has had his moments, but he's still struggling with Newcastle at the moment. And I think, who was the other one? Eddie Howe. We had 4 managers there. Who was the other one? Graham Potter. Oh, Marco Silva, sorry, yeah. Marco Silva is doing great with Fulham equally. But the one thing they all have in common, apart from Graham Potter really, is they haven't managed a massive club like United. United is different to Brentford. United is different to Newcastle, with all due respect. Newcastle haven't won a trophy in about 56 years. So United is a much, much bigger club, and you have to deal with more things. Even Ruben Amorim coming in and talking about the amount of interviews that he's had to do and other bits with the media. So with all due respect to all of them, United's different. Graham Potter, you saw when he went into Chelsea. I know obviously the structure above him was absolutely chaotic, but he struggled a little bit there at Chelsea. And Eddie Howe, that's got to be bullshit, because he fell out with Eddie Howe at Newcastle. That's one of the reasons why he left there. So how is he not requesting him, but how is he suggesting him to United when they fell out? Like, that doesn't make sense at all, does it? That's one thing I thought instantly as soon as I saw the name Eddie Howe. I was like, well, that's fucking bullshit. So, yeah, I don't know. It seems like journalists are getting different kind of stories on this and putting out their own kind of input on it, so you don't really know what to believe. The one thing I will say, when there are murky waters, look for an Ornstein, look for a Romano. 9 times out of 10, they're probably going to be bang on the money. So, yeah, none of those managers had been to the top European prestige with any of those clubs. The thing is with Ashworth, before he come in, obviously there was people that was excited because his reputation is mega in football, right, for what he's done. But if you look at the clubs that he's been at also as well, and I don't mean to discredit these clubs, but he's renowned for the job that he did at West Brom. Did a decent job there. Then the job that he did at Brighton, bringing through players like McAllister and Casado and all these guys, but not only that, the full structure as well. And then the job that he's done for England. Now, again, this might be controversial, but it's a high level, but it's not elite level, is it? Doing it for Brighton, or doing it for West Brom, or doing it for Newcastle. Do you know what I'm saying? So, coming into this, I think it was one of those where Ashworth needed
the full power. And it was a case of Man United, there was too many cooks, spoil the broth. And you've got Brailsford chipping in, you've got Wilcox chipping in, you've got Omar Barada chipping in, all these guys, and Vivell and all these other geezers who are like, maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that. And they all want one aligned vision together in which way they want to go. Now, with the coaches that have been mentioned, obviously Ashworth wanted to go down a different route. Omar Barada is above him. He made the call and he said, no, Amorim's the next guy. I believe in his system. I believe in what kind of manager he is. I believe he can deal with the pressure at Manchester United. This is the route that we're going to take. And obviously there's been a clash in ideas, a clash in personalities, a clash of egos, one might say. But it's turned into a shit show. Is the thing I'm not a fan of. Now, also as well, going into the economical side of things, there were concerns that Dan Ashworth wasn't making enough cuts to United's football department as a part of wide-ranging economy drive by Ineos. Now, you've already seen Ineos at the moment cutting Sir Alex Ferguson's ambassadorial contract, raising ticket prices to £66 for anyone and everyone, OAPs, kids, what have you, laying off a lot of staff, cutting the budget to disabled fans is another thing as well. They're making a lot of unpopular decisions. Now, some on the business front might argue that they need to make these business decisions to make it watertight, to make sure that the ship's sailing effectively. But people, is it about business people who call, or is it about the fans who are the lifeblood of the club? That's what I feel like it should be like. I disagree with a lot of stuff. You've still got the Glazers there. You're still servicing their debt. You're paying off heavy transfer fees that they sanctioned underneath him. Players like Anthony Casemiro, Mount Maguire was a combination of like 260 million quid. Not to mention the wages, which is about £1 million a week for all four of those. And that's just 4 players that I'm touching on. So there are ways you can cut costs as well, you know. And obviously they'll spin it and they'll say, well, you know, the Glazers aren't taking dividends anymore. They took a back seat, letting us run it. So far, I'm sorry, but are they running it any better? In terms of, you know, had the Glazers made that decision, there would be way more of an uproar. If Joel Glazer came out, by no stretch am I defending the Glazers by anything. They're absolute pieces of shit and the scum. I'm not defending those at all. But what I'm saying is, if they would have come out recently, a couple of weeks ago, let's say Ineos would have taken over and they said, we're raising all ticket prices to £66, the stadium would have got booted, the doors would have got booted off, it would have been absolute pandemonium. I know there was protest anyway, but there would have been a high level of protest. But because Ineos have done it, other people have kind of taken a back seat a little bit and been like, oh, well, you know, maybe they need to do this. They don't need to do it. They don't need to do it. It's bullshit. Manchester United make plenty of money. They make around £600 million a year. They don't need to raise every ticket price to £66. They're covering for other costs at the club where they fucked up. Here's an idea. Why not don't spend fucking 20 million keeping hold of a manager and then sacking a manager and then bringing in a new manager like a couple months into the season? Why not do that? Why not pay money for a sporting director, bring him in, and then pay money to get rid of him when he's halfway through his... Do you know what I mean? It's stupid fucking decisions like that. And if you've seen Ratcliffe's, you know, or not Ratcliffe, Ineos in general at Nice... And by the way, what the fuck does Dave Brailsford know about football? Why is he being picked over Dan Ashworth, let's say? Why is he not taking... You know, why is he not pissing off? What does he know about football? If you put both these guys in a room, Dave Brailsford, Dan Ashworth... and you talk about football knowledge and building a club or rebuilding a club and getting it back to a certain level, who are you picking? You're not picking fucking Dave Brailsford, are you? Who's talking about bringing their own pillows and 1% small margins and that kind of stuff. I don't give a shit about your pillows, Dave. You can fuck off. I'm on about... we're talking about football people at a club. Apples and oranges. Dan Ashworth has a reputation. Has done it before. Dave Brailsford, if you look at Nice... Do you know what I'm saying? Do you know that guy? I don't know the guy's name who does it, who's famous on TikTok, who just goes... Do you know what I mean? So,
look, Omar Barad, I'm all right with. I'm like, okay, you know, let him cook, see what he's doing. He's obviously been successful when he was at Man City. He knows what it takes. He's been there. He's done it. You can't really argue with Barada. But Brailsford's the one I'm like, you're keeping this is your best mate. You're keeping about, and yeah, he's been, you know, you've been relatively successful in sports, whether it's, you know, F1 when you're part owner of Mercedes, or if it's the sailing team or the cycling team. Obviously, they've been hugely successful with as well. You've been successful in those areas, but football is different completely, especially at Man United. Some of the best managers in the world have come to this club and failed. Some of the best players in the world have come and failed at this club. Anyway, I'm rambling. What are we saying in the comment section? Jonathan Ball saying, I don't get the Eddie Howe one. It reported him and Ashworth didn't get on, and Howard subverted Ashworth's power base supposedly. Exactly. Number one, Gifter saying we should have kept Rangnick in the back room first. Manager post Alex Ferguson say how it is. Rangnick's words have never rang more true than they do to this day. To this day. By Osman, all your mourning will be a thing of the past. T2 the Israel says, if Ashworth really recommended Southgate, I wish him all the best in his future career. Samuel Kamara, how many players United went to sign up? Bet Ashworth told him he didn't agree with £66. Rampant Brexiteer Jim from his... You know what I heard someone call him the other day? Jim Shader. And I thought that's an absolute violation. What a violation that is. Jim Shady, so crack a bottle, let your body waddle. Yeah, I thought that was quite creative. Rampant Brexiteer Jim from his Monaco tax heaven tells fans we should pay more than the club based in one of the most prosperous areas of London. Yeah, that's being the custodian of the community. I couldn't have said it better myself, Jonathan. In fact, you said it better than I could have, to be fair. So what's next going into this development and this story? Jason Wilcox apparently has struck up a good rapport with Ruben Amorim, has a good, close connection with him, and the interim director of recruitment, Christopher Vivell, and interim performance director, Sam Erith, could see their jobs become permanent. I mentioned before about too many cooks spoil the broth, each one being delegated different roles here. And like I said, there was an obvious clash of personalities. These guys seemed aligned, Wilcox and Barada, etc., on one certain way that they want to go with Ruben Amorim, having this kind of flexible back five, back three system, whatever you want to call it. And they're going to recruit specifically for that system. Ashworth clearly had a different system and way he wanted to play in mind. Now, the question is, what happens with Dan Ashworth's departure? Where does he go? Gary Neville touched on this. He said, I'm really shocked, and it's going to need a lot of explaining. The statement that the club has put out is really poor. I don't know if anyone's seen the statement that United put out in regards to this. About 2 paragraphs, it basically saying, you know, we wish him all the best, and da-da-da. Wasn't very sentimental, to say the least. So I don't know if there has been kind of stronger arguments behind the scenes with Ratcliffe and Ashworth. Apparently, he was annoyed with the recruitment, with bits of the recruitment in the summer. He was asking for holidays a couple of days in. But the thing is with this, though, you're only hearing one side of the story. You're not hearing the other side. You're hearing it's all coming out from Ineos and, you know, you Laurie Whitwells and Adam Craftons who were surrounding the club, who may be being told by people quite high up or being briefed. It's all coming from that side. You've not heard anything from Ashworth's point. So I think you have to hear both sides of the story. Whether we will or not, I don't know. I don't know if there are NDAs involved in these kind of things or not. I'm not entirely sure. Oh. But I am I'm reserving judgment completely for this, because there are two sides to a coin, and maybe we will hear something back from that. People asking in the chat in TikTok, is Pogba coming back? I'll get into that shortly. But yeah, just to kind of round off this story, because we've been on it for 15 minutes. The mood at Manchester United currently in the minute is described by several sources as very low, given the 250 redundancies and cost cutting. But CEO Omar Barada's visibility around the club is appreciated, apparently. So take that for whatever it's worth. That's literally the most recent update you can get on the situation. If we hear anything else whilst I'm live, obviously I'll dive into that. So, but yeah, I want to talk about Amad Diallo, because he's done an interview with Sky Sports speaking about Ruben Amorim, his new role in this system.
and how he's kind of adapting. So he says, we try to follow the coach's philosophy. He speaks to the players. He was a footballer himself, so he understands our feelings. We are happy to have him. I always try to repay the coach's trust. We've been on good terms since he's arrived. He's always tried to help me, especially because I'm playing a new role. This wing-back position is kind of new to me. I try to do it, and the coach is helping me. I'm enjoying every moment. And in the Premier League this season, Bukayo Saka is the only winger with more goal-creating actions than Ahmad. This is despite Man United having started in 8 games in the competition so far. So he is flourishing at the minute, Amad Diallo. He's looking really, really good, and I know a lot of you guys agree and like him. I don't mind him in this wing-back role, because I think he can contribute significantly, but I also think I want to see him in one of those inside 10 roles as well, because we're yet to see that. I know there's a lot of flexibility and a lot of rotation within that system, but I do want to see him as one of those attacking 10s, because I feel like Garnacho doesn't suit it, Rashford doesn't really suit it at the minute. Obviously he's tried Xerxes there, he's tried Mount there. Mount's been okay in certain moments, but not consistently. So I want to see Ahmad there, maybe bring a Mazraoui in at right wing back, push Diallo over that side. If I just want to see it, just want to see a sample size and see how effective he can be in there. If not, keep him at wing back, because obviously he's doing bits there to put up those numbers at wing back. And you're getting close to, like, Bukayo Saka, who's, you know, people obviously rave about him being one of the best wingers in the league, having only 8 starts. It's madness. I know we always go back to it, but how on earth he wasn't getting in the team over Forson and Anthony and these guys is just craziness, isn't it? Because he's by far one of our best players at the minute. I look at 3-4 players in this system that I would absolutely play a million times out of 10. And I think he is one of them. Mazraoui's another. Ugate's another. And there's bits. I mean, Yoro will obviously pick up the pace and they'll go in there. Oh, no, I know we made a mistake. He's in there. Kobe Mainoo's one that I'm looking at, and I'm like, I think he's better in that centre mid role than Bruno. Because I think Bruno, the second half against Arsenal, it was very visible that he was giving it away a lot. He was breaking the structure up. He was chasing loose balls and doing Bruno things, what he always does. Mainoo's a lot more composed. They'll keep it simple. They'll keep it ticking. But he's not really one to break the lines with passes and balls over the top. And you know what I mean? He's not one of those. I like Mainoo, and people are going to grill me for saying this, but under Ten Hag, obviously the shape was always questionable in the Ten Hag, the amount of distance that they're covering. But the areas where he was operating, when he's carrying the ball and he's beating a man, he's dribbling past people near the 18-yard box, that's where I want to see Kobe Mainoo. So maybe you could have him in one of the attacking 10s. I don't know if that would work. But I'd be interested to see that, if you can deploy Kobe higher up. But then it's like, who do you play? Maybe you go with Casemiro and Ugarte then, alongside each other. And you might have to drop Bruno Fernandes. I'm not sure. I'm sure we'll see things being tried, especially in the cup games, especially when we play Victoria Pleasant on Thursday. That'll be another one where there'll be a bit of tinkering and stuff. But yeah, I think there are some consistency in this system and in this formation. I think Amad Diallo is certainly one of them, and I'm just happy for him. I think he's a top talent. He's obviously, whenever he gets on the ball, there are defenders that are a little bit scared because his close control, the way he beats a man, he's cooking at the minute, and he's only 21, 22 max. I think he's very, very young. So, in fact, let me check that. It might be 23 now. It might be a little bit older. But he had spoken about 22 years about playing in a similar system under Gasperini at Atalanta, but being a bit more inverted. I think he was talking about. So he knows it slightly. But let's just, let him cook, let him continue, let him work, keep playing him, protect him, get him a new contract, do whatever you need to, because he is a serious talent, Amad Diallo, and I'm happy he's at the club. So, yeah. What are we saying? people? I want to know how many players Man United need to sign this summer, please, because he has some discussion about portable. I don't know. I don't think that makes sense. But in terms of players that I would sign this summer, I'll give you the opinion on that. I think left back is definitely needed. Left wing back, whatever you want to call it, is 1,000,000% needed. I think a left-sided centre-half is needed as well. I think a prototype of a midfielder is needed in the midfield. And I think I mean, yeah, you could probably buy an attacker in one of the inside 10 roles, and you could probably buy a striker as well. A proven striker who we'll get onto in a moment. That's what I'd do. We'll never know what happened. Also, if you do not work well with someone at a club, then there's just one option and remove them. Yeah, look, it's not the end of the world. You guys, I presume the majority of you all work in places, right? You can't tell me you haven't been at a place where you just don't like working with someone. You just a clash of personalities. They rub you the wrong way. They try telling you what to do. You get a bit pissed off with them. You call them a job's worth. You know, everyone's been at a place like that. Let's not pretend it. Everyone has done it. So it could just be a case of they've gone in and they just did not click. It happens. There are always teething issues with when people come in and it's a new job and they're trying to click and you know what I mean. Sometimes you get pushed by the wayside. It's like we've got one vision. We're going to go forward. It happens. Man United should not sign any new players. New blood means more time to communicate. The squad is strong. Liverpool 15-0 win. Bayern Leverkusen 7-0 win. Okay. Carl saying going to take time now. Clear out needed. A lot of the squad isn't good enough. I take your point. It could be as simple as Ashworth punching Barada. If that happened, it's game over. Yeah, who knows? Misfits card, KSI, if you're listening. Ashworth versus Barada. Take my money. It won't be a very good fight, judging by the looks of him. But anyway, right, let's talk about this Pogba story because it's resurfacing. You had Louis Sahar talking about him. And he got asked about him potentially returning to Manchester United. I already know where the TikTok comments are going to go with this one. But he says, forget about the salary. I'm sure Paul is ready to find a compromise on that as he wants to play football again after such a long time on the sidelines. When I think about Pogba, there are more positives with signing him than there are negatives. And I think he's a player that should interest Man United in January. All the top clubs in the Premier League should see signing Pogba on a free transfer as an amazing opportunity. That's how I see it. Now, I believe Louis Sahar is quite close with Paul Pogba. Obviously, you've got that French connection. You've got the fact that they've both played for Manchester United. I think this is him doing it. He's made a bit of a favour and pushing the name out there and saying, you know, I think you should. I think you should return. Now, I've gone on record before, a few weeks ago now, saying I wouldn't mind if he comes to train with the club. I'm okay with that. Similar to what Johnny Evans done, right? I know it's a different dynamic and the different players, and they're at different stages. But there was a lot of people ridiculing Johnny Evans when he came to train with the clubs, and when we give him a 1-year contract, you had people who's got nearly 2 million subscribers on with the United stand, Mark Goldbridge, saying that, oh, what are you doing? You fucking shit, and why are we doing this? And then, you know, a year later, he was eating his words, saying, oh, actually, it's worked out, and da-da-da. So, you know, Johnny Evans, for all intents and purposes, has been great. Has played a lot more games than he expected, and was crucial in a lot of the games we played. Even this season, Johnny Evans against Aston Villa was incredible. Was really, really good. So if he wants to come and train with Manchester United, I'm all right with that. He's gone through this drug scandal. I don't know the specifics with it, steroids or what have you. Obviously, his ban got reduced, so it's not as bad as they first initially thought. And he can play football again. I've just been speaking about Kobbie Mainoo, how I like him in that role, but I want to see him further up. And you need someone who's going to break lines with passes and play balls in behind. He's quite strong, can use his weight. Is that not Paul Pogba? Even if he was a rotational player, who gives a fuck? There's a different system in now. There's different players. I honestly, I know there was shit going on with, and I know this is a hot take. I know people won't like it. I completely get that. I understand it, and everyone's valid with their points. And I know there was a lot of stuff ongoing, especially when his agent, who's obviously not here anymore, Mino Raiola, I think he just wants to play football again. And for 6 months to be here at United, I wouldn't say no. Honestly, I wouldn't say no. But I know people will be absolutely against that. I completely get it. Javed, there we go. Javed saying, seriously, Pogba. It sounds like Roy. I read that in like a Roy Keane accent then. Seriously? Pogba? Really? Pogba? I know. Before we get into the last story with Victor Osimhen, please do get your opinions in on that story because I want to gauge where people are at with that. If I'm just kind of the only one who would kind of be okay with it,
But before I do get into the last story, if you are on TikTok right now watching, or if you're on YouTube and you aren't subscribed to the channel, please do. We're getting closer and closer to 10K. Closer and closer to 10K. And we're on 8,843 at the moment. So it takes 2 seconds. If you're in TikTok, the link is in the bio. We're live on YouTube right now as well. Hit that subscribe button. Smash a like on the video. And yeah, we will continue with the last story in Victor Osimhen, which I touched on before. And the story that came in, let me just pull it up because I don't know where it's gone now. Manchester United could be the ones. How many times have we seen that before? Put it in the same bracket as monitoring, and we appreciate the player. To pay Victor Osimhen's £62 million release clause in the January transfer window. Never fucking happening, by the way. There is a break clause in his loan deal at Galatasaray. That is interesting. Victor Osimhen obviously is high on Chelsea's radar. Very nearly got done in the window, didn't it? Very, very close to being done to go to Chelsea. So obviously they really appreciate him. I like him as a player. I think he would be actually really good in this system. I think he's very physical. He's a top striker. He was someone I would consider for that price. Because you're talking about, so you got Victor Osimhen there, £62 million is very good for him. Very, very good. And then you have Gyökeres, who apparently has a gentleman's agreement for around £66 million, call it, as well. So you have 2 strikers there. You guys have an option. Who do you go for and why? Victor Osimhen or Gyökeres? Which striker would you pick and why? Because that is a close one for me. I think, obviously, Gyökeres, having worked with Amorim before, obviously there's an advantage there. The bedding in period won't be as much. Has Osimhen shown more at a higher level? I don't know. Actually. Let's have a look at their goal scoring record. Because I mean, Gyökeres is running away at the moment with what he's been doing. Let's pull his stats up. And obviously different leagues, etc. But in 22 appearances in all competitions so far, Gyökeres has 25 goals and 4 assists. That's this season alone, right? You look at last season, incredible. 50 games, 43 goals and 15 assists. That is output. That is absolute output. Victor Osimhen, so far this season, obviously on loan to Galatasaray. Where's his stats? I don't want to know his profile. I want to know his bloody stats. I don't know what he's doing at Galatasaray. I know more about Gyökeres. I know he's done bits for him. 13 games, 10 goals, 5 assists so far this season for Osimhen. Last season, 32 games, 17 goals, and 4 assists. But obviously the season before that, when they won the league, I think it was, with 39 games, 31 goals, and 5 assists. So the numbers they're both putting up are absolutely undeniable. They're both super, super talented. But Gyökeres is going to Arsenal part-time footballers, full-time lifeguards. I don't get that. Really don't get that comment, but okay. We just need to see if Gyökeres will continue to score without Amorim at the club. Right now, Sporting have lost 3 games in a row. That's a very good point. Hello, Steph. Hope you're okay. Welcome. Agenda's okay, gender. Some weird comments today. I don't think people have had like the breakfast or anything. I have not had my breakfast, but I can still speak fluently. I don't know what's going on with some people. I'd struggle picking between those two. You know, I really, really would. I think even age-wise, is there much difference? Like, is there more longevity in one? How old's Osimhen? He's about 26, isn't he? If I was to guess, 25. You know, Gyökeres is 26, 27. One of those two. One thing I will say is, if United are going to go sign someone, and it got announced in January, it won't. It'd be the summer, if anything, because we're skint apparently. But if it got announced in the summer, United have signed Victor Gyökeres for £60 million, 5-year contracts, 100k a week, whatever, 150k a week. I'd be right, fine, that's okay. If they also signed, United signed Victor Osimhen, 150k a week, 200k a week, 5-year deal, just heading into his prime for £60 million. Also completely fine with that as well. I think someone's made a great point about Lautaro Martinez as well, being the best option, one of the best options. I think he is. Lautaro Martinez, I mean, people forget what he's won in the game. Lautaro. That guy is a trophy machine, mate, if you've seen. Let's go through it. So, because I was looking at this the other day. Everything he's won, and obviously his stats speak for himself. So I'm not sure how old Lautaro is. He's like 27, 28, similar to Gyökeres, I think. Top goal scorer 3 times, Serie A, Coppa America. Footballer of the Year in Italy, Player of the Year for Inter Milan, World Cup winner, 2 Coppa Americas, 2 times Italian champions, 3 Italian Super Cups, 2 Italian Cup winners, and a CONMEBOL as well with Argentina. Like, mate, the guy's up there with what he's won and what he's done. Super player. I like him. I have to admit, this year I haven't watched much of him. And whenever I saw him, he'd always been in a system where it was like, obviously they play with a back 5, but he'd be in a partnership with like Lukaku, let's say, for example. He was always better as like the second man. I don't know about him as a lone striker. I don't know. But then maybe he could be one of those kind of 9.5s or 10s, whatever you want to call him, in Amorim's system. I'll have to watch him a bit more to give it like a full opinion on it. Charlie Malman, in my eyes, at the Ipswich striker Delap, he's a brute and got a silky touch. Yeah, Delap, they might go down that route. That stinks to me more than Ineos signing, to be fair. Oh, certainly, if Dan Ashworth was still there, I think Liam Delap would definitely be one. I think Branthwaite was being pushed a lot by Ashworth as well, personally. I'd sell 7-8 players at Manchester United before signing any players. Do you think ex-players like Rio, Nev do the club any favours? So pathetic they are. It's difficult because I think Gary Neville talks a lot of sense when he's speaking about football. That doesn't mean to say that everything he says is gospel and everything he says is absolutely correct. Don't forget, this is a guy who owns a club, who has managed before as well, and has failed badly at management. Badly. And you can say he failed at England as well, because I know he doesn't call himself an assistant there, but he was a part of the team doing the analysis, right, and going through the work with him. And under Roy Hodgson, there was crap. England were absolutely shit. So it's all good to say, like, his opinions in thought on paper are good. But if I was a manager or a player, maybe not a player, because obviously he won so much as a player and was a consistent in Man United's team, so scratch that out. But as a manager, when he's questioning certain things, like if I'm Ruben Amorim and Gary Neville's questioning me on management, I'm like, I'm sorry, mate, but I looked at everything you've done at Valencia and it was absolutely fucking pants. You got dicked 9 times out of 10. I'm sorry to swear on a 12 o'clock show, but that is just the absolute truth. How is he criticising Ruben Amorim, who's won league titles and done an incredible job with Sporting Lisbon? Yes, he knows the fabric of the club. Yes, he was a player. Yes, he knows what it takes. But when he's questioning things like substitutions, Lenny Yoro had to come off. Lenny Yoro's just returned from injury. He should know that himself. When you bring players back, it's very methodical in how you do it. Like, you're not going to play for a full 90 minutes against Arsenal, are you, when the kids just come back? Had to be rotated. Other players in that game as well were knackered. You can see the leggy. Amorim's just come in. Now, if he continues with this and keeps changing his team every single game, you're spot on. You're never going to get any rhythm. It's going to be up and down. The consistency is going to be up and down. Eventually, you have to find your best team, right? And I think all of us thought our best team was the team that we just played against Nottingham Forest. A lot of people thought it was that. I included. I looked at it, I was like, Yoro, Delit, Martinez. I don't think Martinez should be on that team. I'd rather Majora there personally. But then you had Diallo. Was it Diallo at left wing back? Ahmad at right wing back. Kobe and Ugarte in the middle. Bruno, Rasmus, Garnacho as your front three. That's probably United's best team on paper at the minute, with a couple of tweaks, I would say. I think a lot of people would probably agree with that. So I'm looking at a team like that is probably our best team, and we got beat off Forest, and it was an even game. If not Forest, were obviously the better team. The first half was very good, but the individual mistakes that we made as well. I don't even know where I was going with that. I just got wrapped in a rabbit hole with just talking about that game because it pissed me off so much. But anyway, my point is, yeah, he was moaning about Amorim doing certain things and tweaking. He has to do that. He's had no pre-season with the team whatsoever. So he said in a press conference, there's going to be some tweaking, there's going to be rotating, there's going to be difficult times, but it will come. It will come. He said they had it a lot worse at Sporting as well.
but eventually the changes were made and we could do it. And you've got to work with the players that are at your disposal, haven't you? I know it's difficult. I get certain things that he was saying, but I think everyone, because they've won stuff with United, it automatically assumes that everything they say is gold and glittered and spot on and nail on the head. It's not. That's not the case. I do disagree sometimes with what Rio says. I do disagree with sometimes what Gary Neville says. And people will come back at me and say, well, you're just a fan. What the fuck do you know? Everyone's entitled to their opinion, so I have no problem with sharing their opinion, but I don't think it's right all the time. I do disagree with him sometimes. And I do think it puts sometimes unnecessary pressure on managers. Because when they come out and say something, that's what I mean. Everyone takes it and runs with it. And it's like, oh, well, then people will buy into that narrative and they'll say, oh, yeah, actually, Amorim does rotate too much. He's been here for a couple of weeks. He's going to rotate. You don't know his best team. Do you know what I mean? Football's changed significantly as well from the 90s when Manchester United were dominating football. It was 4-4-2. There was no playing out from the back. It was, very heavy counter-attack actually as well under United at times. The 90s to now is a world apart. World apart. So, obviously as a player, you keep your core values. You turn up for training on time every single day. You work as hard as you possibly can, and you do everything you can in the game and everything you can to improve. That should just be standard anyway. And the standards might have dropped because they don't have leaders in there or they don't have captains. That is all I agree with. I absolutely accept. But not everything they say glitters gold. Why not do a video if you just want to waffle? Because I'm interacting as well. I'm not just waffling. I'm interacting with people. I believe when the team plays good, there's 3 players who can name world-class at United. I don't think we have any world-class players, to be honest with you. I was having this conversation the other day. Genuinely, I don't. I mean, Bruno is probably the only one that I would look at, and I'd say when he's on his best form, he's 100% world-class. But then can you call him world-class if it's just when they're on... Do you know what I mean? Like... What is it? Class is permanent. Well, I can't remember the saying. My brain's all over the place. But you know what I'm trying to say. Bruno on his day is world class. Onana, so far this season, has been world class until he made that stupid mistake. So you can't call him world class when they do make mistakes. And, do you know what I'm saying? So I don't know if we have any. I don't know if we have any. Kai saying facts. Rio and Nev are still in the when Fergie was around stage. Pathetic. It does annoy me a little bit. It does annoy me because we're in a different era, different situation, and that just brings. But they'll always be like that. They care about the club as well, so that they want it to be the absolute best. I have no doubt in that. All players are holding us back. I feel Dan Ashworth transfers were poor, and especially the targets like Lenny Yoro. Right. Well, the second one I'm not going to say. You have to get me better than that. Mike Hunt. Nice one. Good try. Hello, Manchester United fans. I hope everyone's doing cool. My eyes are... Oh, sorry, I already read that about the Ipswich striker, Delap. So, yeah, look, just as a recap for you guys who just joined in, we spoke about the Dan Ashworth update, Ahmad's interview, Pogback, Louis Sahar talked about that, and Victor Osimhen to Manchester United. That has been your roundup for the day today. But look, there's plenty of more stuff coming. We've got Victoria Pleasant on Thursday. We've got other stuff in the works for this channel. But stay tuned for breaking news stories around this Ashworth situation because there's a load of stuff ongoing. So please do hit that like button first and foremost. If you are on TikTok and you want to check us out on YouTube, which we're live on, the link is in the bio to join this community. I'd appreciate anyone who does. And just click that subscribe button, which takes 2 seconds in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. We are live every single day, usually around 12 o'clock and 7 o'clock. So we'll see you guys later on. And yeah, hopefully you all have a really